Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. This morning we're chatting about the National Youth Convention 2024, which is happening next Monday and Tuesday at the Hyatt Regency. I want to welcome a research analyst at MyDNS, Kobe Sandy, as well as Alicia Ramdal, who's a panelist at the convention and a MyDNS 40 under 40 national service influencer, as well as a lawyer, climate justice fighter, among many other things. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Rawkus.
How are you guys doing this morning?
Well, really good.
Yeah?
Pretty good, yeah.
You awake? You ready for them?
Yes.
All right, nice. Kobe, tell me a little bit about the National Youth Convention.
Well, the National Youth Convention is one of our ministry's flagship programs under the ministry. It focuses on the development of our young people and empower them to be actors. And this year's theme focuses on climate change, climate justice, action, and of course sustainability. And it's a 2-day convention at the Hyatt Regency from the 9th to the 10th of in this month here at the Hyatt at 10 a.m. On day 1, we will be focusing on the audience will be our councillors, our local government agencies, our state agencies and so on, EMA, IMA, and members of the public, because that day is to focus on policymakers,
right,
to empower them to be actors in their communities when it comes to policy making and making climate conscious choices in their policy. And day 2 focuses on our secondary school students from different schools throughout the country, as well as of course university students, youth groups, to empower them to be climate actors within themselves and the country as a whole.
Alicia, what is a climate actor?
Climate actors are essentially any person that takes action that can affect the trajectory of how the climate affects our lives, how we live, and it's a very vague term, it's a very broad term. It can be used to mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So you can look at youth groups as climate actors, you can look at state agencies, governmental agencies, non-governmental organizations. They're all climate actors because they have the power to play a role in...
But don't we, I mean, technically each and every one of us have the power to play a role when it comes to climate change, right? Even as simple as not throwing away things in the road, or the way that you dispose of things generally. But the theme for this year is the supporting youth action on climate change, environmental sustainability, and climate justice. That climate justice, what does that mean?
Yes. So I have to start by saying that I am very, very happy to see that this is the theme that the MyDNS chose for the youth convention this year. And I know when we began the planning stages, we were looking at 1,000 young persons, and that has now expanded to 5,000 because we understand the need to prioritize this topic to our young people. Now, climate justice predominantly focuses on the idea that we are not impacted by the climate crisis equally. The Caribbean includes small island developing states. We're surrounded by water. We are the front lines of the climate crisis. And we are also contributing least to greenhouse gas emissions. We're contributing least to, causing this crisis that is impacting us. So that is where you get this term now coming in that tries to advocate for the persons responsible to take accountability. It helps us to understand that this disproportionate, the same way that we're impacted in a disproportionate way, funding needs to follow in that way. So we need to have when you look at these big groups that are funding the climate crisis, are they really focusing that funding on empowering the people that are suffering the most at the front lines? And I think in schools, we learn about climate change, we learn about greenhouse gas emissions. We don't learn that we are facing this impact at the hands of big polluters, of states that, they are really not going to feel the effects that we're going to feel until, many, many decades down the line. But we are feeling it right now, we're living it every day, and, we think our young people need to wake up to that reality.
In terms of the funding, right? I understand the request, but my question is, what does the funding do to empower us? If we get more money, does that mean we could block out the hurricanes, or does it mean we get to shade from the sun more? What does it mean if it is we get more funding?
I mean, when you think about the fact that we are at the front line, do we have the infrastructure that can withstand the disasters that are coming our way? Are our young people educated to pursue careers in climate education, or are we always going to have to outsource experts to come in to teach us how to live with this crisis, how to adapt, how to mitigate against the challenges of climate change? And I think the funding is really important not necessarily to, build structures that are going to block out the hurricanes or those things, but it's more of a tool for empowerment to ensure that our people are really getting the chance to learn about this problem, to equip themselves, education-wise, awareness-wise. There's so many. I've had the privilege of being out there on the global stage, attending COP. I've been trained in climate negotiation as well. And this has allowed me to really see that there's so much that we don't know. There's so much as Caribbean people that we don't know, that we don't understand about this crisis. It can get so technical. And I think we really want our young people to see that this is an avenue that you can pursue life-wise, in terms of your education, in terms of building a career. Green entrepreneurship is also one of the topics that will be explored at the convention. And just realizing that your choice, you have to take this problem seriously. We don't have the privilege of choosing whether we want to place priority on this. The time for that has long gone. We're years ahead of that. We cannot choose. We are now being forced to face the reality, whether it be your vehicle flooded that you save up all your money to buy as a young person, your house is roofless, your community is destroyed from a hurricane. That is the reality now, and that is the result of us not putting the priority on this topic for a long time.
Is that the reason, Kobe, that we decided to focus on this pillar? Because this is pillar 7 of the National Youth Policy.
Yes, pillar 7 of the National Youth Policy. And the ministry has been attending various activities in the world stage, such as the ECOSOC, which is in the UN at New York, led by the Minister Foster Cummings and a team. And the topic has usually been on climate change, on sustainability. So bringing that on the stage internationally as a topic locally, for our citizens to be aware, for young citizens to be empowered to act, and to understand that by their lifestyle choices, it impacts themselves, their families, and of course the country as a whole when it comes to the effects we receive from climate change. And that is what the 2-day is about. So again, the first day, we will be having our local government councillors and aldermen.
Representatives.
We'll be having, of course, reps from different state agencies and the public. And the intention is that we'll be having 2 panels. One, to discuss the impact of climate change on SIDS, which is small island development states. And the other panel, which will focus primarily on disaster and risk management in a climate crisis, understanding that the adverse effects of the weather, the flash flooding we see in Port of Spain and in rural communities, the effects that we receive so violently for a few minutes, is to show these councillors and these public agencies that what we're experiencing is because of the climate crisis, and to adapt to it. We must now adapt to that. So that's what the first day is about. And the second day will feature students throughout the country, and it will be broken up into 4 breakout sessions. We're having one on technology, one on green entrepreneurship, one on activism and advocacy, and the last one, we call it Sustainable Threads, which is on sustainable fashion, how you can upcycle your own clothes, because listen to me, by getting every week a new Shein cart affects the environment, So it is to educate, is to empower, and at the end of the sessions is to eventually have our young people and our citizens more educated, knowledgeable of what we experience, and making them be the advocates in their own spaces.
Alicia, in terms of the policy makers, what sort of policies do we need here in the Caribbean to be able to say, well, this will have an impact on what we discussed here, climate justice, climate change, and the impact that it has on us? What sort of policies do we need to be able to better ourselves?
Yeah, so I just want to say kudos again to my DNS for involving not just young people, but also the policymakers and the decision makers in this process. It is so important to have those stakeholders coming together in the same space, because oftentimes you have young people coming to conferences like these, and they get the information, but then they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how it works, and they don't know how to use it in their communities. They don't know what their country is doing about it. They don't know how to get involved. So that, I think, is going to be a really powerful tool, having the policymakers and the young people together in the same room. When it comes to the type of policies, I mean, there are so many. There's so many that we don't have. Yes. One of them, I would say, and one that I have been actively as well working on through some of my involvement with NGOs, is the creation of a climate education policy. And we're looking at trying to do it across the Caribbean, and then, of course, narrowing it down on the country level. But that is really focused on pushing the inclusion of climate education in both formal and non-formal curricula, meaning that from the very early stages, we want our young people to learn about this. This is what they're living. This is what, it's not, you don't get to choose whether it affects you. You don't get, it's not one of those topics, well, if you decide to study climate change, then you can, focus on, you're going to face the impacts regardless, whether you're aware or not aware. And the awareness and the knowledge is what gives you the ability to make decisions, to safeguard yourself, to safeguard your family, to safeguard your community. And when we say non-formal education, we mean, like vocational skills as well, teaching, not just taught in the classroom, because there's so many young people or people in general that we don't capture when we only focus on what is taught in the classroom. So it's looking at that partnership between non-formal and formal education, and understanding that we need to tailor this information in a way that our people can receive it, and we need our government, our policymakers, the persons at the high-level decision-making tables to be involved in that process.
How important would it be to have manufacturers involved in this process?
Oh, very important. Very important. Now we're getting into the sustainability aspect of it. It is really all hands-on-deck approach that we need. There's no picking and choosing who is important in this process. We need everyone. So some people may be sitting at home hearing this conversation and saying, well, I don't really know much about this. This doesn't really have anything to do with me. I didn't do environmental science. I don't do geography. Yeah, I didn't do geography. That's not really my forte. But you don't have that option. And I am saying to those people that you don't have that option, and there is a place for you. It's more than there just being a place for you at the table. There is a need for you. There's a need for each and every person to take this this challenge seriously. And we see it. We just saw Hurricane Beryl. We saw what it did.
Every day when we hot sun.
We smile and we say God is a Trini and we move on. But how long are we going to have the privilege of seeing that?
I mean, between the hot sun, the Sahara dust, and the hurricanes, then we definitely know things are changing and not for the better. Kobe, if people want to get involved, is it open to the public to attend? How can they attend?
So, if you want to attend physically, there's a limited space we have available for persons who want to join physically. And you can go, today it will be launched today on our website, mydns.gov.tt and RSVP. And if you can't make it physically, to Port of Spain, you can always log on our virtual platforms. It will be live and streamed on air, as well as, of course, on our ministry's platforms, myns.tt on Instagram or on Facebook, and you can view there and participate virtually. And of course, again, you log on our platforms to be aware of what's happening. Updates will follow as to how we will be airing it and on what platforms. And so it's available for persons easily.
All right. So you can check out the MyDNS social media pages and get more information. Of course, head across to the mydns.gov.tt website and you can sign up to be a part of it, or you can get the information that you need. Let me say thank you to Kobe and Alicia for joining us this morning. Congratulations
so
on this convention. I look forward to the information coming out of it and the change that will come out of it as well.
Yes.
All right, guys, we take a quick break and we come back with more on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned.